know when you just kind of like take something for granted and you're just like, oh yeah, that's that thing, and then all of a sudden something happens when somebody asks you a question or whatever, and then you realize you have actually no idea what it really means. That's how this video happened. Backstory. So I work at Chipotle, or kind of work there. I'm at college now, but worked at Chipotle and come back one day and my coworker's like, yeah, I'm religious. I believe in a higher power. It's like, and so I inserted myself into the conversation, also got kind of asked, okay, Julia, what do you think what does it mean to be religious? Because they know I'm Catholic, and I am very bad at thinking on my feet. I'm like, impromptu responses, very bad. And so I think I get a really lame answer back at work, which was very sad. But I've been giving it a lot of thought since then. And one, so I don't get cut off guard again if I ever get asked that question. And then two, it's something I've never really thought about. I've been Catholic my whole life, and it's like, I don't know, just whatever. So that's what we're talking about. What does it mean to be religious? Spoiler alert, none of this is like official doctrine. I don't know. It's just, this is Julia and friends, shout out to Julian and Therese, both who don't watch, but that's okay, who we're just trying to figure out what the answer to the question was. And so this is kind of like, it is not false, but it's just kind of us riffing. What my coworker claimed would fall more into like the spiritual category, not necessarily religious. Somebody can believe in a spirit in the sky and do absolutely nothing about it. Satan believes in God, like, Satan believes in a higher power, but I don't think he's religious. But where the word religious comes from, I have my little whiteboard already, because whiteboards are essential to college students, apparently. Religion comes from the word, well, two words, meaning to back or again, and then to bind. So to bind back or to bind again, it's about connecting with God after, or God or a deity after being separated from him. And then if you look at the Christian sense, like sin, or even just in a broader sense, life is separation from this deity. And so religion means being connected with God. It means being connected with the deity, and it means relationship. It means things are gonna, and relationships change people, and so it's gonna mean change. It's gonna mean working. It's gonna be becoming different. And a synonym for religious is faithful. If you think about it, people say, well, like, I do something religiously. It means they do it constantly, devotedly, loyally. It means being loyal to the customs and duties that are related to, and if we're going to go into the noun religion, related to religion. I've been speaking in a broader sense, but if we want to cut straight to Christianity, it means following church teachings and the Bible and Ten Commandments and all that fun stuff. It means binding yourself to the belief system, and if you really believe, it shouldn't be that hard to do, if you think about it. Your actions don't necessarily determine whether somebody is religious, although they're a very big part of it, but we often determine whether somebody's religious by their actions, by what we can see. But it's about choosing and holding on to believing in that God. I have this really awesome quote that I want to share. Nothing is more practical than finding God, that is falling in love in that quiet, absolute, final way. What you are in love with seizes your imagination, will affect everything that you do. It will decide what to get you out of the bed in the morning, what you do with your evenings, how you spend your weekends, what you read, who you know, what breaks your heart, and what amazes you with joy and gratitude. Fall in love, stay in love, and it will decide everything. And that's by Father Pedro. I can't say his last name. I think he's French. He's a Jesuit. Father Arrupe? That's Spanish. Never mind. I can't pronounce anything, including Latin, even though it's my language. It's a problem. Anyway, all that being said, if you are religious, you should be directing yourself towards God or that deity. So I just gave all that. All that being said, what do I wish I had said to my coworker when he claimed to be religious and then asked me what I thought religious was, and I gave a really stupid answer. I think being religious means believing in God, who is part of your life, involved in your life, to the point where you let him form you and shape you in virtue, which is inclination towards the good. And then on top of that, you add a ritual with like organized ritual, and worship on a regular basis, which also aids in the formation of virtue. That's what I think being religious means in a kind of broad sense. It's like, and this isn't just Christianity, it's like it's supposed to be overall broad. And here's the thing, people are searching for God, even if they don't realize it. If you were God, and you created something, or just say you created something, and that something had intellect and kind of like mobile abilities, necessarily, well, that's also animal, but intellect, well, it could choose, and you knew that choosing you, that if this thing that you created chose you, it would be the best thing for the thing that you created. It would be the best outcome for the thing you created. I don't know if I explained that well, but I think I would, if I knew the best thing that could happen to something that I created was for it to be in relationship with me, I would make it so that it would search for me, even if I wouldn't force it, because if I forced it, it wouldn't be real relationship. But it goes to the point, so all men are searching for God because it's ingrained in who we are. That's because the way God created us. And it goes to the point where the Catechism of the Catholic Church calls man a religious being. I'm going to read a quote. Story time, guys. Okay. In many ways, throughout history, down to the present day, men have given expression to their quest for God in their religious beliefs and behavior, in their prayers, sacrifices, rituals, meditations, and so forth. These forms of religion expression, despite the ambiguities they often bring with them, are so universal that one may well call man a religious being. Man was made to worship God, and if it doesn't worship God, it will worship. And if he doesn't worship God, he will worship something else. My coworker believes in a higher power. Well, if we stretch that far enough, because that's already being really relative and ambiguous, if we stretch that far enough, then we can be talking about worshiping somebody who is just higher powers than I do, is better abilities. It can be worshiping somebody who's better athletic, better at sports, better at dancing, better at singing, better at acting, better at academics. The list goes on. Basically, okay, I'm going to go on a rant about celebrity worship. They influence us without even trying or realizing it, because we're so obsessed with celebrities. And it's okay to have a role model. Definitely. You need to have somebody who inspires you to do better than who you are. But when it comes to the point of where you're like worshiping them, because that's really what our culture has turned to, that's a problem. They can inspire, but they shouldn't rule and dictate our lives. We shouldn't let them, because they're not, you don't even know the person 98% of the time, probably 99% of the time. To go more into a Christian point of view, specifically Christian because it's kind of in a broader sense, religion, the virtue of religion, because it is a virtue, falls under the category of justice. So we've got like justice up here as a bigger, broader thing, and then we've got a bunch of other virtues down here. And religion is one of them. And religion simply means giving God what is due to him. What's that mean? Well, basically it means giving God the worship that he deserves. More story time. It's another quote. This one's shorter. But this one's from Spirit of the Liturgy by Pope Benedict. Ultimately, it is the very life of man himself, as living righteously, that is true worship of God. But life only becomes real life when it receives its form from looking towards God. And in that sense, and when I talk about looking towards God in Mass, in the liturgy, where we're receiving God, we're looking at God. When the priest raises the host up, we're looking at God. And that is where you go back to him, you unite yourself with him, and let him form you into a better person and a saint. Now, if you know anything about Socrates, you will know that his conversations usually didn't end with a solid, conclusive answer, and it's kind of frustrating sometimes. Like I said, this is just Julia and Co riffing. Like, this was two different people, two different conversations, two completely different times, 2 weeks apart. So, like, think about it, pray about it, do your research, Google it. Do more contemplation about it than just Googling stuff, okay? Got it? Got it. Cool. Now, all that being said, you're supposed to become a saint, right? Get holy and have fun doing it.